Welcome to Modern Animism, a holistic spiritual path. I'm Laura Giles, your host for today's show. Thanks for being here. Last week, we talked about power and the divine masculine, and today I'm talking with Isaya Gabriel about how women can walk tall and proud in the divine feminine awesomeness that we are. We all have masculine and feminine energy, so guys, don't sit this one out. We could be talking about something that helps you to be a better son, father, partner, or help you get in touch with your feminine energy. So let's acknowledge and give gratitude to the elements, the ancestors, so we can get started. I call to the element of earth and acknowledge and thank you for giving us a home, providing us with food, stability, strong foundation, and sensuality, and all the wonderful things that comes with being physical. I acknowledge and thank the element of air for giving us stability, and the ability to detach so that we can be effective in our communications and relationships. Air, I ask that you help us say what we need to say and hear what we need to hear. Thank you. I acknowledge and thank the element of fire for giving us this hot sun that so many of us are cursing now in the middle of summer. This beautiful fire that brings us warmth and allows us to have cooked food and makes the seeds grow. Thank you for the power and responsibility you give us that keeps us balanced. I acknowledge the element of water, and we've gotten lots of rain with these tropical storms. So thank you for all the rain that allows creatures to stay alive. And thank you for allowing us to go with the flow and flow around obstacles, be patient, and keep moving. Acknowledge and thank our loving, helping ancestors from the human, plant, animal, and mineral realms. I thank you for all the help that we receive that is both seen and unseen. Thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. We got a bump in listeners in South Africa, of all things, last week. So not sure what's going on there, but I want to give a shout out to South Africa and say thanks for checking us out. For anyone tuning in for the first time, if you want to lean in, please check out our private Facebook group where we can chat. We also have an online animism class at pansociety.org if you want some help or guidance in developing your animism path. Now let's welcome our guest. Hi, Isaya.
Hi, so glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. So you talk about a lot of the same things that we say at Pan Society, so we have a lot in common. And how did you get started in working with women?
Well, it so happens that I have a husband and I have two sons, and something like 20 years ago, when my kids were small, I felt like I live in a remote place in France in the middle of nowhere. And it seemed like I was only having conversations with men or little men, tiny men. And I thought, where are the women around? And so I started to get interested in how could I meet other women. And I joined a red tent. I didn't stay very long because I created my own very soon enough. And so I kind of called the divine feminine into my life to add more balance into my very masculine oriented life. I was working construction jobs and very intellectual things on the other hand. And so I needed some crazy, divine, feminine, chaotic energy, and I called it in.
So for those who don't know what a red tent is, can you kind of explain that?
Yes, so the red tent is a movement that's very fascinating because it's one of those things that happened simultaneously in various countries, in various parts of the world, and each part of the world says, oh, we invented it, we created it. So there's a bunch of women in France who think they created it. There's another bunch in America who think they created it, and another bunch in Australia. So you pick. But the idea is here. My heritage comes from the American society, although weirdly enough, I'm French. So there's this woman called Anita Diamond, and she wrote a novel called The Red Tent. It has been turned into a TV show, I think, a small miniseries. And this book tells the fictitious story of a woman that is a character from the Bible, some remote character. I think she's a daughter of somebody who is in the Bible. I don't remember. And what happens is that she belongs to a Hebrew tribe, and they are nomads. So they change location every day or every week, following their sheep, I think. yeah, whatever. And so they have tents, right? And every month during the full moon, I think, or the new moon, I don't remember again, they put up a special tent that is a red tent. And this is for women who are menstruating. And so during this menstruation time, because all women in the tribe kind of menstruate more or less together, they are forced, and you can see my air quotes maybe here, they are forced to live in this red tent for a week, I think. And what happens is obviously, it also means that they do not have any other duties in the tribe. They're not supposed to be cooking. They're not supposed to be doing anything because they're quote unquote unpure. And so they are locked in this tent. And what happens is they start to enjoy it tremendously, obviously. You know, put a bunch of women together, they will create a society, a circle. They'll start talking, they'll start knitting, massaging each other's feet, and in a modern society, doing each other's nails, basically. And so from this idea of this red tent in the fiction book, there's this woman called Alyssa Starkweather, and she said, this is a beautiful idea. We need one of those in each neighborhood, in each village. We need a place for women that can go into a red tent and just be. And so she created a red tent in Boston, or in the suburbs of Boston, I think. And from then on, it kind of took over, and the thing became bigger than her, bigger than the French ladies who created the red tents, and bigger than the Australian ladies. And now it's all over the world. And the idea is that any woman can open a red tent. Some tents open, some others are open 24/7, 365 days a year. I know a red tent that is actually a house, and there are 2 women living in there, and you can go anytime. And the idea is that the red tent is a safe place for women to be. And each word in this sentence is crucial. So it's a place, it's a space to start with. And so the woman who holds the space is responsible for this space. Then it's a safe place, meaning it can also be a refuge for women who need to leave wherever they are, their home, for a while or forever. So they can proceed to the red tent. And it's just a place to be, meaning you can do whatever you want and maybe nothing. And there are red tents who are conversations, so they're traditional, if I may say so, women's circles, so women talk together. There are red tents where women create patchwork or quilting together. There are red tents where women sing together. There are red tents where there is a sleeping area. So if you just want to go there and have a nap without being interrupted by your mundane life, whatever it is, this is what happens. And there are red tents that are tiny, like a little tiny room in a house for 2 hours a month, and red tents which can welcome as many as 2,000 women, so in huge gymnasiums. And the point is, we as facilitator, if you want, we decorate. A red tent is not just any space, it's all red. So you get in there and you have this back into the womb sensation. So it's just a safe place for women to be without any male presence, and to be there and just see what happens when we unite and we come together. So yeah, that's in a short explanation, if you wish, but it's really something that needs to be experienced more than explained. And so if you get any chance, you can, I think there's a word directory now that you can type red tent directory online and find red tents in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So how do you define women for your purposes?
How do I define women? Well, I think women define themselves to start with. I'm not here to define other people. I define myself as a woman, and that's fine enough by me. I think people are welcome to define themselves. If you define yourself as a woman, you're welcome into my red tent.
Okay. And do you have any inspiring? Yeah. Do you have any inspiring stories? So I've seen the movie, The Red Tent, and there's also a movie about the movement, and I've seen both. And the movie about the movement has a lot of inspiring stories about how it helps to heal. And you're right, I think you do have to experience it to get it. But do you have any stories about that you can share without encroaching on someone's privacy, of something that's happened in one of yours?
So many and so little, because it's, healing and discovering who you are can be so huge and so tiny. I don't know. One of the things I'm thinking about is one of my very best friends who is has been coming to a red tent with me for quite some time now. She was, so it's a weird healing story. She is married to a man whose name means house in French. And she never could buy a house. She never could afford a house. She never could find a house for herself. And so she came to the red tent and really was putting the intention to create a home for herself and her family. And she was always into these rentals or having problems with houses. And well, I'm happy to report that she has now a huge thing. I know of a woman who healed her chronic fatigue and chronic pain, mostly by just addressing her need for rest, for a deep, profound rest, not just sleep. We sang songs to a pregnant woman who did not have to have any medication to go through her rather long birth labor thingy. English is my second language, so sometimes I don't know the words. So so we sang song for this woman, and then when she actually went to go into labor, she didn't need any medication, and she said she was singing with us in her head and in her womb, which I think is so beautiful. Many stories. One of the things that is for me the most powerful is that I am happy and proud to say that in many red tents, mine in particular, or the ones that I facilitate in particular, we have different ages. So we have very young women, as in 16, 17-year-olds, and very mature women. We had an 84-year-old woman once, and that was amazing, that we can communicate through or despite, if you want, the age difference and the cultural differences that might appear between age groups. Yeah, things like that, a lot.
Is there anything in particular? You mentioned the red and being in the womb, and for a lot of cultures, the red tent is about menstruation, as you said, like it states in the book. So do you have any particular rituals or things that you do that support women who are no longer menstruating, whether in the red tent or outside of the red tent?
Well, it's the color red that is used for the red tents is of course that of the blood, but it's also the idea to recreate a womb that women can come into and visit. And so it's also, I should have said that earlier on maybe, most red tents are decorated with cushions and soft material so that you can really relax in it. As far as your question is concerned, I am in menopause now. So I am no longer bleeding, But I strongly believe that once cyclic, forever cyclic, and that as women, we are cyclic women. We can connect ourselves to the cycle of the moon. And so that's most tense when not open, choose the time of the month where they are open or when they are open according to the cycle of the moon. And so mine are usually during the full moon, because I am in no condition to facilitate anything during the dark moon. I usually want to retreat in my own personal cave and I don't want to facilitate anything. But there are many red tents that are held during the dark moon. And so the reconnection, if you want, to the cycle of the moon for women who are not bleeding anymore brings back the energetic cycle that we can connect to and feel this cyclic nature, which is like the breathing nature, which for me is the basis of the divine feminine, or the characteristic, if you want, of the divine feminine, as opposed to the divine masculine. Not opposed as in a war, but as in this is the main difference between men and women, or between the energetics of men and women. Men are linear and women are cyclic. And so it's both a huge difference. And I consider, but I'm a woman, that we have a superpower, that the cyclic thing we have in our bodies, and we have in the moon, and we also have we can reconnect even to a wider level to the seasons, which again reproduce this cycle that we have in our bodies. So, but I believe it transcends the body. That's why I'm saying even after menstruation stops, you can connect to the moon cycle. Sorry, my English is getting lost.
And what would you say is the biggest factor that separates women from the divine feminine today?
The fact that they try to act like men.
I agree. I think that's the word.
The fact that they forget that the cyclic nature means that we have 4 different energies that live in our cycle, like 4 archetypes that would dance in our cycle. And this is the power. This is the superpower. And what most women do, and I was this woman, so I'm really, very qualified because I've been there. Amongst the 4 archetypes, the first, or one of the first, if we take it in turn, it's the maiden archetype, which is linked to the pre-ovulation phase, to the springtime, and to the rising tide, to the waxing moon. So this archetype is in particular. So she's the dynamic maiden. She's a go-getter. She's all in. She's got these ideas, and then she's got this very strong self-confidence, and she goes and she goes and she goes, and she never rests. Does that remind you of anyone? Yes, of men, because she, like men, has this tendency to go from point A to point B. And this is fine, but it's only 1 week out of 4. And the other 3, if we don't acknowledge the other 3 archetypes, the other 3 energies, and we stick to this maiden energy, which in our society, in the modern world, like in the corporate world, the maiden is really easy to live with, because she can literally act like a man. So, but if we try to push this archetype to be the whole of us, it means that there is no room for the archetypes, and we kind of kill, if you want, symbolically, obviously, the other 3 archetypes. And then there's an imbalance, a very, very strong imbalance, and that shows. We have wombs that cry, we have wombs that are suffering, we have all these new diseases that affect either the lower abdomen or the womb itself. And those are because the cyclic nature of women is being denied by women themselves. And I know, I've been there.
How important is a woman menstrual blood to the experience of being female? Because for me, that is the connection to the cycle, because you're cycling with the moon, you're cycling as the energy waxes and wanes, you see it out in nature as well.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, the nature of, if I don't like the nature, the word nature, but how can I say that? The characteristic, if you want, of the feminine is this cyclic nature, and thus the menstruation. And the denying of it is just, the commercials with the blue blood in the Tampax, it's just driving me cuckoo nuts. I can't say anything. Come on, this is 2021. How long are we going to pretend that women bleed blue blood, translucent blue blood? What the hell?
Yeah, I think that, it's just not presented factually or naturally. It's like women are supposed to be, I don't know, pristine, and we don't bleed, and I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's like women are supposed to be men.
Yeah, it
one
is.
other
It
place
is.
where you can see that is in France. We're very, very sensitive to fashion, as you know, because we think we invented fashion. And if you look at the models, they look like 19-year-old young men.
Yes.
No breasts, no ass, no hips. And so this is what this society shows us as being the most beautiful woman. It's a young 19-year-old man.
Yeah.
I rest my case. This is not what a woman is. A woman is a cyclic person, and she has 4 different energies. She has the maiden, then the mother takes over, then the crazy enchantress takes over and wants to do all the magic things, and then the crone takes over. And the crone might be the most taboo archetype, because the crone needs a week off every month. Basically, she needs to be in her cave and think about herself and be in her inner world. How can the corporate world accept that? Obviously not.
Yeah, that doesn't work so well.
No.
Unless you're self-employed.
No, but even if society was okay, and we have to make it okay, it doesn't mean that all women will hide for a week every month. It means that we have to give them some wiggle room to be in a different way of dealing with their bodies than a man would.
Yeah.
But for now, we're not yet there. So that's why you and me are working, I think.
And can you talk a little bit about the Enchantress? I think that's another energy that we don't really honor in
The Enchantress is indeed the most unloved of all of the 4 of them by women, which is the worst possible thing. Obviously, so we have the mother. The mother is a very loved archetype. Even in Christianity, we have so much of the mother energy, and she's fine. We have the crone, as I was saying, she's unknown, she's forgotten, but she's not disturbing. The Enchantress, on the other side, is really highly disturbing. She is annoying because she's connected. So just to put things back into perspective, she's connected with the waning moon, with the season of autumn, and with the post-ovulation phase. So what that means is that this energy, this archetype, is or represents a woman at the moment where there is no egg to release. And so basically she can have sex with no danger of procreation. So she's got the magic, right? She's got the magic. She can create anything, but she's not in possible, I don't like the word danger, but risk of becoming pregnant. So this is magic, right? And that's why the Enchantress is linked to the fall season and all the magic season, like Halloween and All Hallows Eve, and all these Samhain energy, which is obviously again the magic time. But the Enchantress has got this, that she's a downwards energy, right? We go from the mother, which is full on, full moon, full in light, to the crone, which is at the bottom of the labyrinth in the dark. And the Enchantress is the way down. But it's not a smooth way down. She will have peaks of energy still and want to create all the magic. And then she will have peaks of not energy or even of emotions. And we will call that PMS, right? And we will call that, oh, you're still going to have your period. That's why you're so annoying today, honey. You know, and so I think that's why she's the most disturbing archetype and often the most unloved one. It's because she is not, she doesn't fit in to anything. You know, the maiden fits in with the men. She can be in the men's society. She's connected to me in my little personal way of seeing the world with the goddess Artemis. The mother is connected to all the motherhood, and we agree in society that women can be mothers. We enhance and encourage them to do so, which is fine. I'm not having anything against it. But so the archetype is okay. Then the crone is, we agree that we have old women can retire basically in the dark. That's all right. Even if we don't want to know anything about them, but you know, that's all right. But the Enchantress, what? She's still alive. She's still going, and she still wants to have sex and wants to be alive. And she's got this magic. Annoying, you know, hide her, put her in a box.
But I think, like you had said earlier, a lot of that is what women do to each other and to themselves.
I think it definitely starts with to themselves, because it starts with non-awareness of this. There is no, in our society, I don't know about before because I wasn't there, although sometimes maybe I was, but I don't remember everything. But today, there is no transmission. There is no transmission of the symbolic, of the ritual aspect of menstruation, of what a cyclic nature means. My mother didn't explain to me. She at all was not explained by her grandma, by her mother either. And so we grow up not knowing of the magic of the cycle, of the superpower that it is. And then we ignore it. And we even go up to shaming other women who might have become aware of it.
Yeah.
And I believe that awareness is the key to everything, you know.
Yeah. You mentioned Artemis. Does having a goddess honoring practice help with that?
For me, anything that will help you or me, for that sake, get in contact with these different archetypes that are in our cycle, with the different energies that we can discover and then harness. Anything will help. That will help. That is a good idea. As for me, I'm Greek of origin, and my mother used to tell me the stories of the goddesses when I was a child. So it was like I didn't have, my Barbies were named after all the Greek goddesses, basically.
Awesome.
and they had fun on a place called Olympus. You guessed it. I used to, you know, I made them tiaras and things like that. So for me, the goddesses were just like everyday life, and just like my friends. And when I became aware of the superpower of the cycle and of the archetypes, and when I got educated, I realized that each archetype connects with the goddess very deeply. So that works for me. It doesn't mean that, you know, these Greek goddesses have to work for everyone. But like the feminine, the four feminine basic archetypes, the Greek goddesses have been around for 6,000 years, and their archetypes also speak to us, even if you're not Greek, even if you don't know them as good as I do, or as well as I do, they will, to a certain extent, talk to you or to any woman. Now, I know very well enough that there are goddesses all around the world, and I believe that we can find traces or reflections of the four basic feminine archetypes into each of these goddesses around the world, from Yemanya to Mavu in Africa to the Celtic goddesses or to the Greek ones, as I mentioned earlier on.
Mm-hmm. So I think, like you said, the moon circles, the red tents are really good ways to connect with women, but you also have women-only retreats. What would you say are the advantages of doing that?
Well, what happens during red tents or moon circles or even retreats is a different energy settles when there are no men around. And I don't have anything against men. As I was saying, I have a lovely husband and two lovely sons. But the energy that settles really, and it takes some time. So that's why a red tent that is a monthly thing, or women's circles that sometimes are monthly or weekly, it takes some time for this energy to settle and for women to kind of breathe into this strictly feminine energy, and magic things happen. And if you can do that on a retreat, so a few days or a week, and depending, of course, on what you do during the retreat, what you actually have activities. Yeah. But the sheer fact of staying amongst women opens up different ways of feeling the world, of talking, and one thing that is for me crucial is that women understand very fast when they are put together that this is not a competition between women, that there is a sisterhood, that is a natural, and I'm not sure about the word natural, but that is kind of inherent. When we are put together, we start feeling how much similar we are, and not in a competition. And usually the competition is about the man. I remember being in a strictly feminine workshop years and years ago, and at some point there was a server in the restaurant we were to, and the retreat area, and this guy was quite kind of cute, and it was immediate how all the women were like, look at me, look, I'm pretty, look, doing her hair, and all of us, me included, and it was like, oh God, okay, this is it. And this is very old primal behavior, of if I get the man, I get the protection, tribal even behavior. And so this disappears when there are no men around. And that is a good idea. Now, what we do when we go on retreats, and obviously we haven't for a while, thank you, right, Mr. COVID. Sorry. I usually go and take women with me to visit sacred places, mm-hmm, and to connect with the earth on the ley lines or on temples, because the ancients knew where their sacred places were built. They were not built randomly. And so when you walk across Stonehenge or the Greek Temple of Athena in Athens on the Parthenon, these are places where you can feel the energy of the land and of the humans who have celebrated and done rituals and ceremonies at this place. So if we can connect to that, we can connect to some primal energy that is awesome, basically.
Do you have a favorite place?
I have a favorite place, yes. It's the Temple of Artemis. It's Temple of Artemis in Vravrona, which is by the sea near Athens in Greece. This is one of my favorite places. I'd go for also the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland. But don't get me started on places, because I define myself as a traveling priestess, so that I can find a lot of places I would like to go again. Sorry?
There's so many.
So many, yeah. So many. I had an intense revelation visiting the Cathedral of Saint Sophie in Istanbul, which is not a cathedral anymore. But this is, wow, this is some magic place. And I remember a temple in Kyoto as well. So There's so many places, and there's a nice little well that is just 2 kilometers away from my house, who does it as well. Because that's the magic. You see, it doesn't have to be, and maybe that's one of the major things that I believe, that it doesn't have to be complicated, or far away or remote. It's in my body, it's on the earth. So if I can connect, I'm told you I'm lucky enough to live in the middle of nowhere, which means we have no lights at night. And it was the dark moon, or the new moon, a few days ago, when the sky is not cloudy, which it is at the moment, but when it's not, if I lie down in my garden at night, I can see the whole of the stars, and it's like, wow, and I can feel connected to this amazing thing that is way bigger than me, and receive from that.
Yeah, it's humbling.
Yeah.
Is there a story or a myth that you hold as an example of femininity perfected or idealized version, or something that we could kind of use as a guide?
As a guide for what? For emancipation?
Or, connecting with your ultimate feminine self. So all of the archetypes, the whole thing, the wholeness of femininity.
I think it doesn't. I'm trying to find a way to explain that. I think it's one awareness after the other. It's like, for me, I always figure that out as something that I would start from my feet and go up, and on each level of my body, I will find another one of the archetypes, if that makes sense. And so it's like, when you do these meditations and you go each chakra up, well, I start lower than the first chakra. Actually, I start with the feet. And I consider that the connection with Gaia, so with the earth, is the first connection to the archetypes. And if we can visit each layer or each level, up to the crown chakra and even higher, then we can connect to this amazing channel or conduit that we are for energy to go up and down. So to go up from the earth to the sky, which is the feminine energy, and to go down from the sky to the earth, which is the masculine energy. And when we are fully open to both of them, then it's highly enjoyable.
Yeah. So what about guys?
So no, sorry?
So what about guys? I know you don't work with guys, but do you have any advice for men for how they can tap into the feminine energy to become more whole? Because we have both.
Yeah, obviously. No, I don't have any advice. And I will tell you why. I don't have any advice because basically I am amazed by men, but I don't understand them. They're like a foreign country to me. Okay. And I love this foreign country. Really, I'm interested to visit. But and I would like, the only thing is I would like for them to have this same curiosity about women, to be interested in learning how women function, and that would connect them with the divine feminine. So, but that's the only thing I can say, because they're so fascinating and completely different, and I have no resentment to them, just to be specific. I'm not in one of those feminists who say it's all men's fault. I think it's, this is the way it is for now, but we are open to changing it. And I think the one way to change the way the world functions, as far as the balance of masculine and feminine is concerned, is to literally go and discover, like America, like Columbus discovered America, the opposite sex, and go and say, who are you? How do you feel? Oh, how does that make you feel? Oh, this is interesting. Let me write this down, and and maybe come back to it. Oh, you'd feel differently last week than this week. Ooh, you're a woman. And so yeah, I think opening up to that. I have advice for women who want the men in their lives to understand this crazy cyclic thing that we go through.
Okay.
You can create, for instance, magnets on your fridge that would say which face you are on, so that the whole family knows. If you're in the Enchantress face, people will leave you alone. If you're, I had at one point I had 3 magnets on my fridge when I was fully menstruating. One was for my own cycle, where I was. One was for the moon cycle, and one for the sun cycle. So that I could, me and the rest of the members of the family could see where I was, because it's not that simple. And I think it's our responsibility also to educate the men in our lives. We can't just sit and say, oh, but you don't understand. Well, explain then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So do you have any events coming up? I know we got COVID. Are you back in business?
I am. I actually coach online. So the online coaching and the one-to-one coaching is open, because thank you, Zoom, we can work remotely. I do run red tents at this minute. Red tents, which are not known. But at this moment, I only run them in French. So if you're French speaking, you're welcome. But since it's July and school holidays and so on, I'm kind of in a pause. I am prepping. Okay, I'm going to tell it to you, but you don't say it to anyone else, right? I am prepping a big workshop for September that is going to be either online or offline, and that is called Blood, Milk, and Water, the 3 basic fluids of the feminine, of the divine feminine.
Awesome.
So it's all about working with those 3, because I believe we talk a lot about water, blood less, and milk not at all. Yeah. And I think the 3 of them are connected, and the 3 can form the trinity of the liquids of the divine feminine. So yeah, this is happening. And also, sorry.
Go ahead.
And also I have this, I have been creating programs online since we are, in France, we're still in half lockdown. So I've been creating programs with each of the goddesses. So to visit the archetype deeply by working on one particular aspect. For Athena, we've been working on planning and organization and strategy. For Demeter, we've been working on creativity and things like that. So I'm building a whole academy, if you want, a whole big school of learning how to connect with the goddess archetypes and how to harness their power in your life.
And how would people find out about that? Do you have a website?
I have a website. My website is isayabel.com.
Can you spell it?
Yes, like my name, Isaya. So ISAYA, and then Bell, BELLE.com. Isaya Bell.
Well, thanks for joining us. If you want to mention in animism and deepen your animist practice, you can check out pansociety.org. Post any questions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are, we are. And we loved your feedback and would love hearing from you. And I'd like to close by sending gratitude to the elements, our loving, helping ancestors, for being here. Thank you all for joining us for this edition of Modern Animism Radio. And don't forget to donate, as we do need your financial and emotional support. You can do that on our website at pansociety.net. Thank you for tuning in. This is Laura Giles for Pan Society Radio. Thank you, Isaya, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks for having me.